that.
Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has said Pakistan needs to give clear and concrete proof that it is taking action against India-centric terror. She said according to India, there is hardly any difference between state actors and non-state actors in Pakistan. The Defence Minister said India is responding adequately to Pakistan. India's message to Pakistani state and the Pakistani non-state actors is very clear. Pakistan must give evidence that it is reining in terrorists, and that as of now doesn't appear to be happening. No efforts are being made, at least they are not visible to India. No efforts are being made by Pakistan to promote peace, and there is a collusion between the Pakistani establishment and non-state actors, she said. Let's listen in to Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, who was speaking at the book release of Brigadier Gurmeet Kanwal. Let's listen in.
Efforts of Pakistan are not towards encouraging this step. Earlier, what used to be just a non-state actor's role, or at least so claimed by Pakistan, we now clearly see a collusion between the possibly the Pakistani army or the establishment together with the non-state actors. The distinction between the two is hardly there. As a result, it is very clear that we are going to have to face it with proportionate responses from our side. We do not want to be giving any reason for this to get aggravated. We want to be responsible in paying back and paying back proportionately. But it's also for Pakistan now to prove that they are responding to containing terror. They are responding to not allowing Pakistani soil to be used by terrorists. They have to be clear and concrete on it, in proving it, which is, for us, we are waiting. We are honestly and consciously complying with CBDT. So, if we are being responsible and not being supportive of, in fact, we scorn at spread of nuclear capability. We don't do anything which is illegal. We don't allow stealth dirty bombs to grow at our cost, or we don't help such dirty bombs anywhere in the world, like some of our neighbors. We are not cause for the world's nuclear proliferation. We are a responsible nuclear power. And that is why, even though till now we have not even signed the NPT, we are now joining the elite clubs of Missile Technology Control Regime, MTCR, or the Wassenaar.
Nirmala Sitharaman has also made it very clear that the government is doing enough for the defense of the country. She admitted there are shortages in funds for the armed forces modernization. She was referring to that presentation made by the Vice Chief of the Army Staff, General Sharad, to the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Defence. She said she will go back to Parliament for addressing this issue. Let's listen in.
The Parliament is in session. The Standing Committee's report has been laid yesterday, uploaded yesterday. On that, a lot of issues are there. I need to give an answer. If I need to give it, I'll have to give it because the session is in. This is ongoing. I'll have to do it there.
Joining me now for more on the story is India Today's Shruti Ranjan Sen. Shruti, take us to the context of her criticism of Pakistan, that Pakistan is not doing enough to address India-centric terror?
Well, I mean, what the Defense Minister made very clear, Gaurav, is that it's now up to Pakistan to kind of prove that it is doing enough on terror. Because the Minister was very clear, and as we have been also reporting earlier, that the Defense Forces have changed track. It is a proactive policy that we are taking, and we are not only hitting out or not only trying to eliminate, so to say, terrorists trying to infiltrate from across the border, but we are also targeting Pakistani regular army posts along the line of control that we feel are supporting terrorism. That is a huge change that has happened. We are no longer, just retaliating to a ceasefire violation. At times we are going ahead and hitting those posts if we believe that terrorists are likely to come. It is in this context that the Minister is saying that while the government has made enough efforts, has reached out, and ever since the Modi government came into power from 2014, the invitation to Nawaz Sharif, and even after the Pathankot terror attack, unprecedented move allowing the Pakistani investigators to come and collect evidence here.
Yes.
Unprecedented move by India. Nothing happened in that. Now the government is saying that, well, it is up to Pakistan to prove that you are doing enough on terror.
Stay with me for a moment. I also want to quickly bring in Brahma Chellaney, a noted defense analyst and someone who watches both Pakistan and China very closely. Brahma Chellaney, is Pakistan getting India's message, both at the line of control and diplomatically, that it needs to take concrete action against India-centric terror for things to improve?
India is trying to deliver that message, but whether Pakistan is getting their message is another question, because Pakistan will not change its behavior easily. Pakistan will change its behavior only if India brings Pakistan under sustained pressure. Right now, India is only taking modest steps. India has yet to impose any sanctions on Pakistan. An American policy toward Pakistan is another problem area, because the Americans are still not willing to strip Pakistan of its most, of its status as a major non-NATO ally.
Absolutely, Brahma. Absolutely. You've hit the nail on its head. Now, Nirmala Sitharaman was speaking at the book release, Sharpening the Arsenal, India's Evolving Nuclear Deterrence Policy by Brigadier Gurmeet Kanwal. And Shruti, I want to understand from you on Pakistan's nuclear arsenal, the dirty bomb. Is there a genuine fear that Pakistan's nuclear weapons, tactical nuclear weapons, could fall in the hands of non-state actors like Hafiz Saeed or perhaps the Al-Qaeda or the Taliban? Is that a genuine fear?
Well, Gaurav, before one goes into that, let me just say what tell you what the minister said. The minister said that we are a very, very responsible nuclear power, and then quote unquote, unlike some of our neighbors, we do not want any proliferation, or we do not want to contribute to a dirty bomb. That is what the minister said. It's a very loaded comment. We all know who the minister is referring to, who the neighbor is, and that neighbor is Pakistan. Now, on the issue of whether there is a genuine fear, yes, there is a genuine fear of nuclear secrets, nuclear weapons landing up with the wrong hands with the terror organizations. And it is precisely because of this that the United States has moved in to secure large or almost all of Pakistan's nuclear arsenal. That is also a fact. But even then, we know that Pakistan has proliferated nuclear technology to countries like North Korea, and that remains a problem. The AQ Khan network, which is one of the biggest proliferators of nuclear secret, has been called out, has been mentioned in the UN, has been, so it's all there.
But as Brahma Chellaney says,
yes,
these are modest steps and India needs to do much more. Stay with me, Shruti. I now want to shift track. I now want to talk about the diplomatic war between India and Pakistan. Islamabad today recalled its High Commissioner to Delhi for talks, for consultation. So Suhail Mahmood has been called back to Pakistan for consultation after Pakistan made an allegation of ill treatment or harassment of Pakistani diplomat staffers and their families in India. They apparently say there have been 26 such instances in the past 8 days. And this is amazing because just before Pakistan made this allegation, India had gone public with the fact, India had told Pakistan that it was Pakistan, the ISI, their intelligence, who were harassing Indian staffers, Indian diplomats and their families in Pakistan. Is Pakistan's diplomacy making obscene calls to Indian officials? Is Pakistan's diplomacy sending ISI spies into homes of Indian diplomats? Is Pakistan's diplomacy intimidating Indian officials and their families? Pakistan is falling to new depths in its diplomacy with India. After harassing Indian officials, diplomats and their families for over a year, Islamabad is now resorting to play the victim card. After alleging harassment of its diplomats on Indian soil, Pakistan has called its High Commissioner Sohail Mahmood back to Islamabad for consultations. But India has called Pakistan's bluff, saying that the High Commissioner going back to Islamabad for consultation is a routine move.
It is pretty normal for an ambassador, high commissioner in any country. They go back to their capital to hold consultations with the foreign office. So this is pretty normal.
Indian diplomats in Pakistan have been facing harassment for over a year now. India's High Commissioner to Pakistan, Ajay Bisaria's car was halted in Karachi to stop him from attending an event. ISI officials barged into another diplomat's house. His laptop was stolen. Pakistani agencies raided an Indian residential compound, cutting off power and water supply.
Our High Commission in Islamabad is facing a litany of issues which have not been resolved for several months. We raise these issues in good faith through diplomacy.
As the diplomatic duel intensifies, Pakistan has alleged its Deputy High Commissioner's car was chased and his driver abused by unidentified men. It's clearly Pakistan's diplomacy of deceit as it continues to violate Vienna Convention and abuse Indian diplomats in Pakistan. With Geeta Mohan and Manjeet Singh Negi, Bureau Report, India Today. Brahma Chellaney, what do you make of what's happening between diplomats, staffers in India and in Pakistan? There was one report that said that somebody rang Indian Deputy High Commissioner's doorbell at 3 in the morning. The same thing happened in India for the next couple of days with the Pakistani Deputy High Commissioner.
Let's be clear. Indian diplomats in Islamabad have been facing harassment for years. And India has been protesting under successive governments, asking Islamabad to follow the Vienna Convention. But India's pleas have fallen on deaf ears, and in recent months, Pakistan has escalated its harassment of Indian diplomats based in Islamabad. Now, in response to this latest escalation of harassment, India is giving the taste of Pakistan's own medicine, so that Pakistan realizes that it is actually doing things which it will not tolerate. India has been tolerating this harassment for years on end now. And look at Pakistan's reaction. When it gets a taste of its own medicine, it makes so much noise in the public. It tells the media. It wants to draw international attention. The fact is that what its diplomats are facing in New Delhi is only a tip of what Indian diplomats face on a daily basis in Islamabad.
So if the relations between India and Pakistan are so bad, is it then time to scale back ties between India and Pakistan? Because you'd recall, Dr. Chellaney, some decades ago, an Indian diplomat was beaten up so badly in Pakistan that India had to send a special aircraft to bring him back to India, and he was hospitalized for several months. So if Pakistan doesn't follow the Vienna Convention, if Pakistan sends terrorists into India, and you heard Nirmala Sitharaman there saying there's no difference between the Pakistani establishment and non-state actors, how should India deal with a country like Pakistan, sir?
If Pakistan is a terroristan, as India calls Pakistan, India says Pakistan is a terroristan, India has said so at the United Nations, why does India not impose any diplomatic sanctions on that country? Why does India allow Pakistan to have a large ISI-infested High Commission in New Delhi? Look at the number of diplomats that Pakistan stations in New Delhi. These diplomats are stationed with their families. In contrast, Indian diplomats in Islamabad are posted alone. They cannot take their families because of harassment by Pakistani intelligence agencies. It is past time for India to downsize diplomatic relations with Pakistan. The Pakistan High Commission should be cut to a modest size.
Okay.
India should maintain bare minimal strength in Islamabad. There is no reason for India to allow Pakistan to have a bloated mission in New Delhi, given the fact that relations between India and Pakistan are strained, official interaction between the two countries is minimal.
Yes.
So why does Pakistan maintain such a large mission in New Delhi?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Let me now shift focus to a development that's taking place on India's northeastern flank. So this is what the latest intelligence inputs seem to indicate. China appears to be flexing its military might, its military muscle in the region. Intelligence agencies have said that China has deployed additional aircraft, additional helicopters in Tibet. Not just that, there's a sharp spike in Chinese Air Force exercises after the Doklam standoff with India. A recent intelligence note says that in February 2018, the deployment of Chinese fighter aircraft and helicopters increased along the LAC, but inside Tibet, all along their bases. That's not all. They're also using their satellite navigation system, their sat-nav, to keep an eye on what's happening on this side of the LAC. The Dragon's latest dare, China's Snoop satellite keeps a hawk-eye along the LAC. China is using its homegrown navigation satellite system Baidu near Aksaichen to spy on Indian military movement. The Chinese Army and Air Force have also begun building up their presence in Tibet. There are additional fighter jets and helicopters stationed at different airfields and bases in Tibet, while airfields are also undergoing upgradation on a virtual war footing. At the Pangta airfield in Tibet, the Chinese Air Force appears to be constructing blast pens for its fighters. This is an indicator of permanent deployment of aircraft at these altitudes. At Hoping, China has increased the presence of its aircraft and helicopters to 13 Mi-17s and 10 fighter jets. At Gongar airfield, 22 helicopters and 11 fighter jets have been deployed. At Sule airfield, the People's Liberation Army Air Force has deployed 8 additional helicopters. Intelligence agencies have also reported the movement of an additional Chinese Army brigade into Tibet post the Doklam standoff.
The Chinese are making sure that psychological pressure is fully backed up by a very transparent and credible military preparation.
There seems to be a shift in Chinese deployment policy after Doklam. The Chinese forces are flexing their muscle, and the spike in deployment along the LAC is being seen as an attempt to play mind games with India. This is the biggest build-up in the Tibet Autonomous Region in the past 5 decades and is an indicator of the times to come. With Jitendra Bahadur Singh and Shri Ranjan Sen, Bureau Report, India Today. Professor Chellaney, how do you see increased Chinese activity in Tibet? Both their army, an additional brigade deployed in Tibet, and their Air Force activities, sir.
Well, 2 things are happening. One, that since last August's agreement to disengage from Doklam, the PLA has quietly captured much of Doklam. The whole of northern Doklam, for example, is in Chinese control now. The second development is the beefing up of Chinese land and air assets in Tibet directed at India. Now, these two developments are very ominous because India last August gave the impression that India had actually won in the confrontation with China on Doklam Plateau, that India emerged victorious.
Okay.
But now when we look back at the developments since last August, it's apparent that India's victory was largely tactical, that China has actually seized the initiative and is achieving a strategic victory by capturing much of Doklam. And Doklam, as you know, is a disputed land, a disputed plateau, a plateau that is claimed by both Bhutan and China. But by capturing Doklam, China is presenting a fait accompli to Bhutan and to India.
So what should India's response now be, given what China is doing? Is China really looking at remaining in Doklam throughout and permanently occupying that disputed territory, given the hard pens that are now being built there?
Before the last summer standoff, there was no Chinese permanent deployment of presence in Doklam. There were no permanent military structures that China had constructed on Doklam Plateau.
Yes.
Today the situation is very different. As the Indian Defense Minister has publicly acknowledged in a statement to Parliament, China has built helipads and other permanent military structures on Doklam Plateau. In other words, since the agreement to disengage last August, the military situation on Doklam Plateau has changed fundamentally
and
to
this
China's
development,
advantage.
Dr. Chellaney, will be watching very closely. I have run out of time on the discussion tonight, but on India first, Chinese activities is something we'll be talking about in greater detail. For the moment, many thanks for watching.